The splendid ambiance of the French restaurant Le Chandelier at 8 p.m. on Saturday was bathed in warm golden light and melodious piano music. Diners, mostly the elite of Riverton City, were enjoying exquisite dishes, chatting quietly in the elegant atmosphere, far removed from the hustle and bustle of the streets outside. The soft clatter of cutlery, the clinking of wine glasses, and the alluring aroma of garlic butter and herbs permeated the air. But that refinement was suddenly torn apart by a dry, cold sound. Click-clack. Right in the middle of the restaurant, near the window overlooking the brightly lit avenue, an unbelievable scene was unfolding. Maya Johnson, a young, beautiful black woman in her early 20s, was standing stunned, her hands wrenched behind her back and tightly secured by shiny steel handcuffs. The designer emerald green silk dress hugging her trim figure now looked terribly out of place and poignant. Her refined features, which minutes before radiated anticipation for friends, were now tense, her lips tightly pressed, trying to suppress humiliation and indignation. Two police officers flanked her. Officer Pete Kowalski, a man in his 40s with close-cropped hair, a ruddy face, and a beer belly visible beneath his uniform, was looking at Maya with a triumphant, contemptuous expression. Beside him was Officer Gary Miller, younger, around 30, tall and thin, smirking, his eyes undisguisedly smug as he looked down at the restrained black woman. Their crude presence and forceful actions were like a dirty black ink stain smudging the perfect picture of Le Chandelier. The surrounding diners were stunned. Conversations died. All eyes turned towards Maya's table, where a glass of mineral water had been knocked over, its contents spilling across the pristine white tablecloth. A few people quickly raised their phones to record video or take pictures. Whispers began to rise, no longer discreet murmurs, but unconcealed astonishment and indignation. "What are you doing?" Maya spoke, her voice trembling slightly with anger but still attempting composure. "Let me go immediately." "You have no right to do this." "No right?" Kowalski sneered, his voice condescending. "I'm the police, I have the right. You're resisting an officer, disturbing the peace here. Now come quietly with us to the station." He gripped Maya's arm tightly, intending to drag her away. "I wasn't disturbing anyone, I was just waiting for my friend," Maya protested, trying to pull her arm back. "Resisting arrest too, huh?" Kowalski tightened his grip. "Miller, hold her tight." The restaurant manager, an older Frenchman named Dubois, dressed in an elegant black suit, hurried over, his face pale with worry. "Officers, please, calm down. Is there something we can resolve calmly? She is our guest." "Get out of the way." Kowalski roughly shoved Mr. Dubois aside, causing him to stumble and nearly fall. "This is police business. Stay out of it if it doesn't concern you. Or do you want to come to the station with this little tramp?" Mr. Dubois retreated fearfully, helplessly watching the scene unfold. Maya Johnson, the beautiful, elegantly dressed young woman, was now being treated like a dangerous criminal in the middle of the city's most luxurious restaurant. No one understood what was happening. Why were the two officers targeting her? What had she done wrong? And why was she being treated so brutally and unjustly? The questions hung in the air, along with the mounting tension. It all began about 10 minutes earlier, as officers Pete Kowalski and Gary Miller were driving their patrol car along Riverton City's Central Avenue. They had just handled a minor noise complaint down the block and were relatively unoccupied. Kowalski, an officer with an increasingly irritable attitude and deep-seated prejudices about race and social class, glanced through the large glass window of Le Chandelier. His eyes landed on Maya Johnson, sitting alone by the window. Her beauty, elegant dress, and dark skin immediately triggered ugly biases in his mind. "Look at that little black thing there, Gary," Kowalski said to his younger partner, his voice dripping with contempt. "Dressed like a queen, sitting all by herself in a restaurant only meant for rich folks. Probably a high-class call girl waiting for a client, or some tycoon's mistress. Miller, who always echoed and admired Kowalski's toughness, sneered. Clearly doesn't know her place, probably thinks sitting in here makes her high society. A malicious thought sparked in Kowalski's mind. He wanted to teach the young woman a lesson, show her her place. Hey, pull over, let's go check on her. See if she has legal ID or if she's an illegal immigrant sneaking around. He smirked. Let's embarrass her for fun. Miller didn't object, even seemed enthusiastic. They parked the patrol car around a hidden corner, then the two adjusted their uniforms and entered Le Chandelier with an air of false authority. Their arrival immediately drew the attention of staff and a few diners near the door, but no one dared to stop them. They walked straight to Maya's table, who was gazing absently out the window. "You there?" "Identification?" Kowalski demanded abruptly, his voice rude, cutting through Maya's thoughts. Maya looked up, slightly surprised by the presence of two police officers at her table, but she tried to remain polite. "Excuse me, is there a reason you need to check my identification here, officers?" "Don't ask so many questions." Kowalski lightly slapped his hand on the polished wooden tabletop, making the mineral water glass tremble slightly. "Hand over your ID." Now. Miller stood behind Kowalski with his arms crossed, a mocking half-smile on his face. He scanned Maya from her elaborately styled hair down to her designer high heels, his gaze crudely scrutinizing. "What are you doing sitting here alone, little lady?" Waiting for a special client, perhaps. Maya began to feel genuinely uncomfortable. "I'm waiting for a friend, and I don't believe I'm obligated to present identification while sitting quietly in a restaurant and not violating any laws." Her voice remained soft, but had gained a firmer edge. Maya's polite refusal further angered Kowalski. He hated the attitude of people he looked down upon. "Not obligated? Who do you think you're talking to? I'm the police. I have the right to demand it." He leaned forward, his breath smelling of tobacco. "Or maybe you don't have legal papers? Illegal immigrant, huh?" Miller chimed in, his voice slimy. "That dress looks nice. Must be expensive, right? Where'd you get the money? Working hard at night, are we, honey?" The blatant, insulting, and discriminatory words made Maya's face flush with anger. She couldn't believe she was being treated like this in a public place, by the very people supposed to uphold justice. "You are harassing me," she said, her voice starting to tremble as she tried to maintain control. "Your words are completely unacceptable. They are defamatory, racist, and constitute sexual harassment. I demand you stop immediately and leave, or I will be forced to call the restaurant manager." The fact that Maya showed no fear, even dared to demand they leave and point out their misconduct, added fuel to Kowalski's fire. He felt his authority challenged, being lectured by a little black thing. "Call the manager?" Kowalski sneered. "You think that pointy-nosed French manager dares do anything to me? You're the one causing a disturbance here." He glanced at the water glass on the table, a nasty idea forming. He deliberately swung his arm, pretending it was accidental, and knocked hard against the glass. Crash! The glass toppled, water splashing onto the white tablecloth and onto the silk fabric of Maya's dress. "Oh!" Maya cried out reflexively, quickly standing up and stepping back. "There! See?" Kowalski seized the opportunity. "You assaulted an officer! You threw water on me!" He lunged forward, trying to grab Maya's arm. "No, I didn't!" Maya frantically pulled her arm back, trying to defend herself. "Resisting arrest too?" Kowalski yelled gleefully, having found his pretext. He turned to Miller. "Miller, arrest her for disturbing the public order and resisting an officer." Waiting for just that cue, Miller quickly moved behind Maya. Despite her protests and desperate struggles, he used his strength to wrench both her arms behind her back. Maya felt a sharp pain in her shoulder and wrist. And then, the cold sound of metal rang out. Click-clack. The handcuffs clamped tightly around her slender wrists, like a final punctuation mark on her freedom and dignity in that public place. Manager Dubois rushed forward, but it was too late. Kowalski and Miller stood there, triumphant, looking at the handcuffed Maya with unconcealed satisfaction. They had succeeded in teaching the black girl a lesson, completely unaware they had just signed the death warrant for their own careers. Maya Johnson stood in the splendid main hall of Le Chandelier, her wrists aching from the steel handcuffs clamped behind her back. Her emerald green silk dress was now wrinkled, one shoulder slightly askew, her initial elegance replaced by an image of injustice and humiliation. Around her, curious, sympathetic, and indignant eyes were fixed on her and the two police officers. "See? Told you not to be sassy," Officer Kowalski repeated, his voice full of smugness. He crossed his arms, looking at Maya like a trophy. "Now be a good girl and come with us to the station to make a statement." Officer Miller stood beside him, wearing a self-satisfied smirk. He glanced defiantly at the people filming with their phones, as if to say, "What can you do about it?" Maya took a deep breath, trying to steady her heart, which was pounding with anger and a faint underlying fear. She couldn't let this continue. She needed to act. She looked straight at Kowalski, her eyes no longer showing surprise or simple anger, but a cold, resolute determination. "I demand to make a phone call," Maya said, her voice calm and clear, cutting through the whispers. "That is my legal right when under arrest." "Make a call?" Miller sneered mockingly. "Gonna call your lawyer from the ghetto? Or call your sugar daddy client to bail you out?" "Probably calling her pimp to come pay the fine," Kowalski added with a smirk. "Who do you think can save you now?" "I need to call my father," Maya stated plainly, emphasizing each word. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that made the two officers pause slightly. "Your father?" Kowalski raised an eyebrow, his expression still full of contempt. "What the hell is your father gonna do? Probably just some bum off the street, some addict, right?" Maya ignored the insult. She looked down at the black Chanel clutch lying abandoned on the table where the water had spilled. "My phone is in that purse. Please get it for me." Kowalski glanced at the expensive designer purse, then back at Maya in handcuffs. A bit of curiosity, and perhaps the desire to see the next act of this farce, made him nod to Miller. "Get her phone. Let's see who her daddy is that dares interfere with police business." Miller walked to the table, roughly snatching up the purse. He opened it, rummaged inside, and pulled out the latest model iPhone, its screen gleaming. He held the phone towards Maya, who couldn't take it with her hands cuffed behind her. "Here, read the number. I'll dial it," Miller said, his tone still condescending. "No need," Maya replied. "Just hold the phone a little closer. I can use voice command to call." Miller reluctantly brought the phone closer to Maya. "Call Dad. Fed prosecutor now," Maya said loudly into the phone. The two words, "Fed prosecutor," shot through Kowalski and Miller like an electric shock. They exchanged glances, their faces starting to change color slightly. "Fed prosecutor? Just a coincidence," Kowalski tried to reassure himself and Miller with his eyes. Maya's phone quickly executed the command and automatically switched to speakerphone. The dial tone echoed in the now deathly silent restaurant. Every eye, every ear was focused on the small device. One ring, two rings, then a deep male voice, authoritative and carrying an unmistakable sharpness, boomed from the phone's speaker, drowning out the piano music that was trying to cling to the elegance. "Johnson!" Just those two words were enough to send chills down Kowalski's and Miller's spines. The voice was too familiar, too powerful. It was the voice of federal prosecutor Marcus Johnson, a legend in the justice system of Riverton City and the region, famous for his relentless prosecution of organized crime and corruption. "Dad, it's Maya." "Maya? Where are you? Why aren't you home yet?" Mr. Johnson's voice held a note of concern. "I'm at Le Chandelier, Dad," Maya replied. I was waiting for Lisa, but she got stuck in traffic. Le Chandelier? Okay. But you don't sound quite right. Is something wrong? Maya took a breath. Yes. There's a little trouble, Dad. She glanced at the two officers standing frozen beside her, their faces beginning to pale. I'm being detained by two officers from the Riverton Police Department. Police? Detaining you? For what? Mr. Johnson's voice turned stern immediately. They said I was disturbing the public order and resisting arrest, Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. And I'm in handcuffs, Dad. There was a moment of silence on the other end, a heavy, dangerous silence. Then Mr. Johnson spoke, his voice lower but laced with steel. They did what? Handcuffed you? What are the names of those two officers? Maya looked directly at their name tags. One is Officer Pete Kowalski, the other is Officer Gary Miller, Dad. Kowalski and Miller, Mr. Johnson repeated the names, as if etching them into his memory. All right, Maya, stay calm. It's okay. Absolutely do not do anything to make the situation worse. I will handle this immediately. I'm calling Chief Rossi. Put one of those officers on the phone with me. Kowalski's and Miller's hearts felt like they would burst from their chests. Talk to Federal Prosecutor Johnson? Right now? Maya looked at the two officers, her gaze no longer angry but filled with cold pity. My father wants to speak with one of you. Kowalski and Miller looked at each other, their faces ashen. Kowalski tremblingly reached for the phone, but Miller was faster, snatching the iPhone as if it were a life raft. Hello, this is Officer Miller. Miller stammered into the phone. Mr. Johnson's voice boomed from the speaker, cold and powerful. Officer Miller, this is Federal Prosecutor Marcus Johnson. I want you to explain to me immediately why my daughter, Maya Johnson, is in handcuffs at the Le Chandelier restaurant. Do you and Officer Kowalski have just cause for this arrest? Miller was speechless, only managing a few incoherent sounds. Kowalski, standing beside him, was shaking like a leaf. Mr. Johnson didn't wait for an answer. Listen here, Miller. I'm giving you and Kowalski exactly 1 minute to remove the handcuffs from my daughter and leave the premises immediately. I will be calling Chief Rossi personally, and I assure you, if my daughter suffers any harm, however minor, you will face the most severe consequences possible under the law. Understood? Yes. Yes, Mr. Prosecutor, Miller stammered, his voice almost cracking with fear. The call ended. Miller shakily handed the phone back to Maya. Kowalski frantically fumbled for his keys, dropping them on the floor in his haste. He scrambled to pick them up, then clumsily managed to insert the key into Maya's handcuffs. Click! The cuffs sprang open. Red marks were clearly visible on Maya's fair wrists. Sorry, Miss Johnson, Kowalski stammered, not daring to look Maya in the eye. Really sorry. This was just a terrible misunderstanding. We received a mistaken report. Completely mistaken. He desperately clung to a hopeless lie. Miller nodded rapidly in agreement. That's right. Just a mistake. Please find it in your heart to forgive us. We didn't know you were... Maya took a step back, away from the two men now cowering fearfully before her. She gently rubbed her wrists, adjusted her dress, trying to regain her composure. She looked them straight in the eyes, her voice cold, emotionless. Misunderstanding? You call racial slurs, sexual harassment, false accusations, and unlawful public arrest a misunderstanding? Do you think this belated apology can erase what you just did? Maya didn't wait for their answer. She knew that for these two, things were just beginning. The moment the handcuffs were removed from Maya Johnson's wrists, the atmosphere in Le Chandelier changed completely. The initial fear and silence gave way to louder whispers, and gazes shifted from mere curiosity to outright indignation and contempt, directed at the two police officers. The restaurant manager, Mr. Dubois, who had previously appeared timid, now regained his confidence. He strode forward quickly, standing protectively in front of Maya, and addressed the officers sternly in English tinged with a French accent. "Officers, I believe you have caused quite enough disruption in our establishment this evening. I must ask you to leave immediately, and I will be filing a formal complaint regarding your conduct with the police department." Surrounding diners also began to voice their support. An elderly gentleman at a nearby table stood up, pointing at Kowalski and Miller. "This is an absolute disgrace to the police force. You don't deserve to wear those uniforms." Another woman added, "Racist behavior and abuse of power like that are unacceptable." Many others nodded in agreement, some still recording with their phones as evidence. Kowalski and Miller stood there, absorbing the criticism and scornful looks, their faces pale with fear and humiliation. They knew they had made an irreparable mistake. Messing with anyone else might have been different, but they had targeted the daughter of federal prosecutor Marcus Johnson, a man even Police Chief Rossi respected. Squawk, squawk. Just then, the radio clipped to Kowalski's lapel crackled with harsh static. This time it wasn't the dispatcher, but the voice of a higher-ranking officer, the shift commander, sounding furious and urgent. "Kowalski! Miller! Unit 21! Do you read me? Leave Le Chandelier immediately! Do not say another word! Do not cause any further trouble! Return directly to the police department! Report to my office! Immediately! This is a direct order from Chief Rossi!" Hearing the command from their superior, Kowalski and Miller didn't dare hesitate another second. They mumbled one last apology to Maya without looking up, then hastily turned and practically fled the restaurant under the contemptuous stares and mocking whistles of the crowd. The earlier arrogance and swagger had completely vanished, replaced only by fear and abject humiliation. Once the officers' figures disappeared through the restaurant's large doors, the tense atmosphere gradually dissipated. Mr. Dubois quickly approached Maya again, profusely apologizing for the unfortunate incident. He had staff bring her a glass of warm water and a cold towel for her wrists. "Miss Johnson, I am truly sorry for this terrible experience in our restaurant," Mr. Dubois said sincerely. "We are deeply embarrassed by what happened. To compensate in some small way, please allow us to offer you and your friend dinner this evening, completely complimentary." A few other diners also approached, expressing sympathy and support for Maya. "That was dreadful, young lady," said an older woman, placing a comforting hand on Maya's shoulder. "You were very calm and brave facing them." "We all saw everything," another man said. "Their behavior was clearly wrong. If you need witnesses, we are more than willing." Maya felt touched by everyone's concern. She politely thanked Mr. Dubois and the guests. "Thank you for your kindness. I truly appreciate it. I'm all right." Maya declined Mr. Dubois' offer of a complimentary dinner, but thanked him for his graciousness. She took out her phone and called her father back. "Dad, it's me. They've left." "Yes, I'm okay. My wrist is just a little red." "Yes, thank you so much, Dad. Please don't worry too much. Yes, Lisa is about to arrive. I'll head home right after seeing her. I love you, Dad." The brief conversation was enough to somewhat reassure Mr. Johnson. Maya put her phone away, trying to regain her usual composure. But the residue of the incident remained: indignation at the injustice, humiliation at being treated poorly simply because of her skin color, and the luck of having a father powerful enough to intervene promptly. Maya wondered, if she hadn't been the daughter of the federal prosecutor, would she have escaped that situation so easily? Or would she have been dragged to the station, falsely accused, and faced unnecessary legal troubles? The question sent a chill down her spine. Just then, her friend Lisa arrived, her face bright at finally reaching their meeting spot after being stuck in traffic. Noticing Maya's slightly unusual expression and the odd atmosphere in the restaurant, Lisa asked worriedly, "Maya, what's wrong? Did something happen?" Maya took a deep breath and managed a smile. "It's nothing, Lisa. Just A little unpleasantness. Sit down. I'll tell you about it. Although dinner had started with an unwelcome incident, Maya knew she needed to face it strongly and move past it. But she also knew that the story for Officers Kowalski and Miller was far from over. Pete Kowalski and Gary Miller drove back to the Riverton City Police Department in heavy silence, the air in the car thick with fear and desperation. Both knew they had caused an extremely serious incident, an irreversible mistake. They had not only violated professional conduct and abused their authority, but had also offended one of the most powerful figures in the city. As soon as they stepped into the main lobby of the department, they were ordered directly to Chief Isabella Rossi's office. The office door slammed shut behind them, trapping them in the room with the female chief seated behind her large desk, her face like ice, her sharp gaze fixed on them. Chief Rossi, a strong Italian-American woman who had risen to leadership through competence and integrity, was not one to easily overlook her subordinates' wrongdoings, especially actions that damaged the reputation of the entire force. She had received a direct call from federal prosecutor Marcus Johnson, who recounted the incident in a controlled but furious tone. She had also seen several videos of the incident at Le Chandelier already starting to circulate on social media. She didn't need to hear any further explanations from the two men standing before her. "Kowalski! Miller!" Chief Rossi's voice rang out, not loud but full of authority. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" The two officers hung their heads, unable to answer. "What right did you give yourselves to harass, insult, and handcuff an innocent citizen in the middle of a fine dining restaurant?" She tapped her hand lightly on the desk. "Did you know who she was? Or does it matter to you? Is anyone who is black deserving of being treated like a criminal?" She paused, letting her words sink in. "Your actions are not just stupidity, not just blatant abuse of power, but a disgrace to the badge you wear, the uniform you put on, and this entire Riverton City Police Department." She picked up a file from her desk. "I have received the preliminary report and direct instructions from Federal Prosecutor Johnson. The decision has been made." She looked each man straight in the face. "Officer Pete Kowalski, Officer Gary Miller, effective immediately, you are both suspended without pay, pending the formal investigation by Internal Affairs. Surrender your weapons, badges, and department IDs right here." Kowalski and Miller tremblingly complied, placing the symbols of their authority on the chief's desk. They knew this was only the first step. The Internal Affairs Division, IAD investigation proceeded urgently and thoroughly. They collected an official statement from Maya Johnson, who agreed to cooperate fully. Maya provided a detailed, objective account of the entire event, from the derogatory remarks to the handcuffing. Her statement was corroborated by testimony from Manager Dubois and numerous other diners willing to testify against the officer's misconduct. The videos provided by witnesses became irrefutable evidence. When questioned separately by IAD investigators, Kowalski and Miller initially tried to equivocate, blame each other, or fabricate excuses like mistaken identity or acting in self-defense. However, faced with overwhelming evidence and pressure from all sides, including the fact that the federal prosecutor's office was closely monitoring the case, both eventually admitted to most of their misconduct, particularly approaching and harassing Maya without just cause, based on personal prejudice. They still tried to deny the racist element, but the words witnesses heard condemned them. Kowalski's personnel file also revealed an alarming history of complaints related to discriminatory attitude and behavior, though never fully addressed before. Miller, while less notorious, was clearly a passive accomplice who failed to intervene and even joined in his superior's wrongdoing. The IAD investigation results were presented to Chief Rossi within days. The conclusion was undeniable. Pete Kowalski and Gary Miller had seriously violated numerous core regulations of the police department, including policies on professional ethics, operational procedures, anti-discrimination, use of force, and abuse of authority. Their actions had severely damaged the image and credibility of the police force. The only possible recommendation was permanent termination. Chief Rossi wasted little time approving the decision. She understood that removing toxic elements like Kowalski and Miller was necessary to clean up the force and regain community trust. The terminations were officially announced. The Riverton City Police Department also issued a press release expressing regret over the incident, publicly apologizing to Miss Maya Johnson and committing to enhanced training and oversight to prevent similar events from recurring. In this instance, likely due to the lack of serious physical injury and perhaps the Johnson family's desire not to drag the matter through criminal court, the consequences stopped at the highest level of departmental discipline: termination. For Kowalski and Miller, this was still a severe punishment, ending their careers entirely and leaving an indelible stain on their records. Maya Johnson learned of the officer's termination through her father and Chief Rossi. She felt a certain sense of relief and justice served. Maya felt no satisfaction, but she knew that at least those two abusers would no longer have the opportunity to harm others as they had harmed her. The incident at Le Chandelier became a bitter reminder of the reality that racism and abuse of power still exist, even in seemingly civilized and luxurious settings. But it also showed the power of speaking up, the necessity of accountability, and the importance of having leaders willing to make the right, albeit difficult, decisions. Maya continued her life, stronger and more resilient after the experience. She knew the fight for justice was long, but she would never remain silent in the face of injustice. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this entire story. If you enjoyed this content, please hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next meaningful stories, because tomorrow we will have another meaningful story for you.